Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Fatman Scoop,
Jeannie Callie.
and we're talking credit today. And let's start here. I went through a divorce many years ago, and anybody who knows about divorce knows that you struggle. And here's why. For anybody who has been in a divorce, or anybody who's going through a divorce, anybody who's sitting in the house saying, "Should I do it?" Here's what's going to happen to you. Um, Depending on what the situation is with your kids, that's going to break apart. But the second part of it is financial. And, divorce is terrible because not only do you have a emotional piece, but you got a financial piece to deal with, especially if you're a man or if you're the person who is the breadwinner in a relationship. So you may think somebody makes a lot of money, right? But when you have to pay an alimony, then you have to take care of yourself, and then the government wants a piece. That margin is either slim or it's nothing. And somebody gonna have to get paid, somebody gonna not get paid. Anyway, because of that, I went through a hell of a struggle. And I can tell you guys how bad it was. When I met Jay over here, I had 470 credit. Okay, so here's what 470 means. 470 credit means your credit is so bad that if somebody stole your identity, they get the phone calls. You don't get the phone calls from the collectors, they get the phone calls from the bill collectors. To this day, the sound of the IRS hold music, dun, 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 like that still triggers me in my soul. The sound of Ally Financial customer service on hold, the sound of like a bunch of different on hold musics trigger me to this day. And it just gives me a bad feeling in my soul. And I'm sitting there with this super bad credit, but I make a lot of money, but I have terrible credit, right? So I run into Jay, and she's like, "Listen, don't worry about this. We're gonna do this piece by piece, right?" And I'm extremely worried about it because again, I'm coming from a bad place. And people, if you don't know anything about credit, I'm gonna explain it to you. And Jeannie, I'm sure you can explain it.
Okay.
Credit is basically your adult report card.
It totally is.
And why is that?
Well, it's that 3-digit code that can get you approved or declined. And at what rate? How much is everything going to cost you? And when you have bad credit, everything costs more.
Everything
You're
costs more.
trapped. It's really difficult.
And that now, and this is the funny part of bad credit and paying more. Just by nature, if your credit is bad, it means that your financial situation is not great. So to have to pay more is actually more taxing on you,
Of course.
right? Which puts you in a hole just because. Because the people who really can't afford it are now forced to pay more, right? Now, if your credit is where it needs to be, then you have an easier pathway to getting a loan or getting whatever you want to do, done. And so here I am with this 470 score. And I went through alimony for 10 years. And sometimes you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But I kept sending you my stuff, and you guys kept working on it, right? And little by little, I started getting out of not having to pay the alimony, pay things back, work on things y'all was saying, listen, go pay this $37. And you know what's so funny about it, people, is that sometimes the credit that you have the most issues with is dumb stuff.
Right.
Verizon, $36 from 10 years ago. T-Mobile, $16.15 from 4 years ago. You didn't Spectrum, you didn't get back the router. Little dumb stuff that just catches you, that if you just addressed it then it wouldn't even be an issue, right? So I had some major ones, and because of that, it was bad. So you come to me and you say, this is the plan on what we're going to do. Can you explain what you told me and how we executed that plan for anyone who'll be watching?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not also just about the negative things, right? It's also what healthy new credit can we put on? Let's balance out the negative that things happen. Life happens, divorce, income changes, sickness. So what else can we do? So it's working on negative items. And if they're accurate and they have to stay, what can we balance it with?
Right.
What new credit? Where do we keep those balances on a new credit card? And working on the things that were inaccurate, things that shouldn't have been on your report.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's so many steps when it comes to your credit, and it's putting the puzzle together to make it the best for you in the moment, right? And continue though, because that credit score staying with us, right? And it's going to go up and down compared to our life, how it is. And just keeping it real that, you can't always have the best score.
You can't always have the best score and life happens, right? But what you can do is while you have everything together, you can keep it together. Because if you have a temporary dip, life happens. But if you can prove, look, for this amount of time, my score's been this. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. Then you have a better chance. My parents used to say something to me that was very real. Your reputation precedes you. And it's the same thing in credit. If you have a bad reputation of not paying on time, if you have a bad reputation of not paying your rent or whatever the case may be, you think just because you move around that people are going to forget. But we're in the computer age. Back in the days, that might have been cool when everybody wrote something down, some papers got erased or whatever, but now everything is on record. So more than any time in the existence of history, right now is the most important time to have credit because it's going to follow you, because now they have a way that's distributed amongst everyone. And that's important. So let's start here, because people at the end, I'm going to tell you where I am with my score now. How did you get into credit? What happened to get you into credit?
Yeah, I went through a divorce. And so I was a single mother and broke. And my credit report was so bad, like you, in the fours, right?
In the fours, man.
And it was really difficult. I went for help. No one could help me. And I had to dig my way out. And then I started learning how to build better credit and how to fix items on my credit report. And it was a long struggle. It took at least 3 years. But then once I figured it out, I said, I can help other people do this and not feel as much pain, because I was afraid to answer the door because I had, the electric man come to turn off my electric.
I've been there.
You can't sleep at night, but you need to sleep. You're constantly afraid to look at your mail, right? Everything was painful. And you just wanted to get out of it. And I paid a lot for everything. No one would have rented to me.
Oh, listen, I'll tell you. After the pandemic, because everything was great with my, I was paying off my divorce and everything was cool, alimony, but the pandemic crippled me. Because I'm a guy that went from making high 5 figures a month to 0.
Right.
Because I'm a DJ and a performer and a recording artist. My business is predicated upon people being in a room together with me. When that doesn't happen, there's nothing going on. And went through hell during the pandemic, got some help from the government, which is cool. I'm not ashamed to say that because, listen, I done paid a ass ton of taxes in my life. So my attitude was, look, I paid a lot. So guess what? When it's time for y'all to help me, come on, step on in here and take care of some of this. And listen, people, again, if you need help, there's nothing wrong with getting assistance. What's wrong with it is staying on it forever and using it as a crutch. Everybody need help every once in a while. So, like you said, I got to a place when the pandemic was over. I owed a lot of money for the apartment. I bust my butt and I made the money and I paid them off. However, it's on my record now, right? So now when I go to rent an apartment, I can't. So I said to myself, all right, I'm gonna leave New Jersey. I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania, right? I try to go to Pennsylvania in East Stroudsburg, like right over the Jersey border, the Poconos, and I'm looking for places to rent, and I'm looking for places to, get a house and rent or whatever. Can't do it. Why? Your record, your credit score. And because of that, and I was lucky enough, people, I was able to do a 1-2 and get something where I live now.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to a hard lender.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't, anyone who knows what a hard money lender is, it's a person who lends you money for a specific amount of time that is not a bank. So I have friends, I have family. I actually had the money, but no one would rent to me. So what I had to do was turn around and get a situation where someone helped me to get a place, and I had to use hard money to get it, right? But I had to pay a percentage for that hard money. Again, no credit. However, God bless, thank the Lord, I was able to do the 1-2 here and there and get it back quickly. But what about the person who can't do that? So let's talk about interest and credit real quick. Your credit score sucks, which means your interest rate is high. The man that's somebody like me, I was able to go do what I needed to do and get up enough money to do what I needed to do to get the job done. But let's talk about Joe Schmo. Mm-hmm. Joe Schmo has to go to a hard money lender or whoever he's going to. The percentage may be what? On a hard money loan, depending on what it is, what you think?
14%.
14%. I think mine was like 16%, right?
Okay.
Now, 16% might not really mean anything if you're using it for 3 months, 4 months,
right,
5 months. But 16% at 72 months, which is what? 72 months is 6 years or 7 years?
Yeah, too long.
Too long. What is 16% at 72 months now? You almost paid for the loan and a half.
Right.
Right? Now, that is what, to me, would be called a predatory lending situation. But you're in a predatory lending situation because your credit's not right. Now, if your credit was right, instead of that 16%, you might be at 7.5.
Right.
7.5 is a world of difference between 16.
Tremendous.
Right? Now, in the hard money situation that I was in, it was 16%. And if you took more than the year to pay it, it became 23%.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
But this is for people with money that can do the 1-2 and X, Y, and Z. And I was blessed to be in that position to be able to do it. The doors were just opening after the pandemic.
Right.
Everybody wanted to see somebody perform. We were 2 or 3 years with nobody, no live performances, no nothing. So the floodgates opened. So I was blessed to be in that position to be able to do that.
Right.
So I put myself into a little situation and was able to get up enough money for my cousin and my family and everybody to kind of help me get to where I needed to go, and that's where I wound up. But what happens if I'm just a Joe Schmo with no help from my family, no whatever, and I gotta go and get a loan?
Right. It's so difficult. That's why you have to make sure you're working on your credit.
Right.
You can't walk away from credit. A lot of times people, they want to bury their heads in the sand and not think about it. You can't, because that credit score, or just even the credit report, can open up the doors for you of where are you going to rent. And maybe you are stuck in a place right now because your score isn't great.
Yep.
But then we have to work on it.
Yep.
And working on it doesn't always mean removing, some magic genie, even though my name is Jeannie, right? It doesn't mean that. It means, what else do we need to put on the report? Right? Let's open up some new accounts and put some healthy new credit on there. Okay, let's handle the negative that's on there. Let's deal with the collections. Let's figure things out. But you can't walk away. You need a score.
You cannot walk away. You cannot run away. You cannot put your head in the sand. You cannot say, let's worry about it tomorrow. Listen, when I started this journey with Jay, it was painful. Looking at some of these things that I owed, and the taxes, and it's legitimately scary. It's tough. And listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't wear jewelry and I don't wear stuff like that, and I don't have to drive the most expensive car, but I've done well for myself in my life. But when you get cut down, and you hit reality to an extent, and you got to look at all this stuff that wasn't even a worry before, it hurts you, and it's a daunting task emotionally and from a financial place.
Yes.
But you have to commit yourself to doing it. It's just like anything. It's like weight loss. It's like getting better at basketball. It's like anything that you want to do to improve yourself. You have to do it gradually. You know, how you lose weight and how you gain weight is all gradual. It's over time. And I remember looking at Experian.
Yeah.
You know, like we would be talking and it would be like, I think, you know something, let me even take that back. I think it was like 440. It was terrible, right? Then it was like 490. You were like, just keep going. You kept saying, just keep going. And the people from the office would call me and they'd be like, listen, we got a letter, we got to do this, we got to do that. Then it was like 510.
Right.
Then you like, I was like, all right, you know, 510 still sucks. But I was like, this is better than 440, right?
Exactly.
You know, this is gradual. And then it was like, then I turned around one time and it was like, I think it may have been like 6:30. And I called you and I was
Yes.
like, 6:30, okay. And then, you know, because I get these things from Experian and Equifax. And listen, I would be so terrified, I didn't even want to put my password in to even see it. And it'd be like, hey, Isaac, your score has done this. And I'd be like, or say, Isaac, your score has decreased a little bit. And I didn't understand why. But that's part of the game. You know, it's gonna up and down, right? It was like in January or something.
Yes.
And then I looked at it and it said, hey, Isaac, you got a score of 700. And I said, what? What the? And then I took a picture of it and I sent you a screenshot. I was screaming in the background, like, I got a 700, I got a 700. And I was going crazy because you said it was going to happen, right? But I didn't know if I just keep working on it, it's going to happen, right? So, all right, so now we at 700. So now I'm like, Jay and them are the real deal, right? I'm like, all right, not that I didn't know that. I knew that from 440 to 465 to 495 to 510 to 640. Now we at 700, right? So now I'm like, all right, I call you like, yo, 700 is pretty good, right? I said, okay, cool. Now I open it up like a month ago and it says 740. 740 is only 60 off of a perfect credit score, okay? So I'm saying to myself, wow. And we had always wanted to do this interview.
Right.
And I just couldn't get it done or whatever. You know, I'm overseas, I'm doing what I gotta do. When I looked at that 740, I said, listen, to myself, I was sitting in my office and I was just sitting there and I was looking at the 740 on the screen and I was like, this woman got me from a 440 to 740, right? I don't care what I have to do. I got to go down there and do this. Now, people, when I was divorced, when I was married, I had a $1.2 million mansion. That mansion would be probably worth about 1.5, 1.6 right now, or not, whatever. I had a BMW 750, a Range Rover VSC or whatever it was, an ML 350 that my wife had, a Chevrolet Malibu, and what was the other car? Whatever car. So I'm at like 5 cars now, right? I took care of everybody in my family. You know, you got the mortgage, you got the landscaper, you got the insurance, you got everything. I'm running about $25,000 a month in overhead, right? Okay. When I get divorced, everything's going on. I went. Originally, I had to move to a way smaller apartment than I was used to. So imagine moving from a mansion to a small apartment. First, it was a mansion to my mother's house. So I didn't live with my mom, but my kids live with my mom because I'm on the road so much. I was just on the road trying to pay everything off,
Right.
doing every show I can, like almost like what Steve Harvey was saying. He was just working, trying to pay everything off, right? And doing that, and then I was able to get a small apartment in Harlem, and then I moved back to New Jersey to my old neighborhood where I had the mansion, but now I'm living in a small little apartment complex, bad carpet, like, the cheapest of refrigerator, everything. And I'm not saying that to say, woe is me. Like, when you a champion, you got to lose. The only way that you can win is to lose. The only way that you can be a winner is through failure. So going through all that stuff, whatever I go through, all that, I'm down. But before I make a lot of money, right? And just thinking about it, I'm bugging. You have a lot of money and a high lifestyle. So I had a lot of money and a high lifestyle, and I had a lot of and I was making a lot of money, but I was living low because I still had to pay that thing. All right, so finally, I move. I kind of get things into order. I move into a nice building in my own neighborhood, about 10 miles away, but it's a brand new building. And the building, I'm paying about, at that time, I think maybe like $4,000 a month in rent. The pandemic hits. And when the pandemic hits, I go again from making 5 figures to 0, right? Okay. So I go through hell, I pay everything off. The pandemic's over. Now we're at the thing where the gates open, right? And this is what I need you guys to understand about credit and lifestyle. I say to myself, you know something? You Fatman Scoop. Why don't you go show them what it really is? Why don't you get back to the Range Rover, the 750? Go get yourself another this, because I never liked Rolls Royces or Bentleys because I thought it creates too much attention, but I will buy 3 or 4 cars to equal that, right? So I was like, let me go get the 750, the 750 Beamer that costs $135. Let me go get the Range Rover that costs $125. Let me go get this and it, right? And then something said in my soul, don't do that. Stop, chill out, bro. And I sat down and I thought about things, and I said, I'm going to go in the other direction. I'm going to lower my expenses, and I'm going to live below my means, and I'm going to go somewhere and do something, and I'm going to make a change so I can try to make a change for my family. Your credit, and I say all of this to say that, people, your credit situation will never change for those who have bad credit or don't have their act together until you change your habits on spending and lifestyle. I'm going to tell you something. I've been a man, again, that had a $25,000 overhead every month. My house was 8,500 square feet. It's on a hill, everything. But I've never been happier than the house I live in now, that literally the next door neighbor is only a car length. Like, you can drive your car through my driveway, and then the next person is living here.
Right.
I've been in a mansion with 2 blocks in each direction of land. And I'm in a small ass house right now in Ohio, and I've never been happier. You know why? Because I know that if something goes wrong, I'm able to sustain myself.
Right.
Let me tell you something, because I'm a DJ and a performer, and that's where most of my income comes from. When you are in December of a year, and you know that December is Christmas, so people are saving. January, people are coming over the hangover. February, people are not moving. People start moving in March, basically. when you are sitting around trying to figure out how you gonna come up with $75,000 to cover this 3 months from December to March, it'll make you lose your hair.
Right.
But when you turn around and you've lowered your expenses to where you can handle anything, you can sleep easier, you can breathe easier, you're happier. I open the door for people at Walmart. Like, it's a whole different kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, people, part of your entire financial reorganization is that you have to live below your means so that, one, you can start to pay off your debts. The minute you pay off your debts, your interest rate goes down. Your ability to borrow and do things is increasing now. You can't do that if your financial situation is terrible. You need credit. If your credit is terrible, you gotta listen to her. You gotta bring your expenses down, get rid of all these debts, pay off all these things you owe, because again, it's your adult report card. And then once you do that and your credit comes here, you're open for a whole different world of opportunities. However, one of the major things that I want to say, and I'm going to let you talk, is that once you have the credit, that does not mean that you go and act stupid. Credit is like a pistol. It's like a gun. You have to use that responsibly. You can't just go around and throw a pistol in everybody's face like that. You have to be responsible with a pistol. Credit is the same way. Just because you have a crap ton of credit doesn't mean you go out and buy things. Because if you do that, you will be back in the same situation again, and you'd be back in your face again. and the objective here for you is to get people out. And then those people tell people who need it. It's not to come back and see her again. It's so that you can get out of it and tell other people.
Exactly. And you're saying all these nice things, but you, Scoop, you did it. You listened. A lot of times people don't want to listen. They just want that good score. They want the tricks where you have to put in the work. And you want to count on it too. You don't want tricks when it comes to your credit, because
100%.
What about if you're ready to purchase something, right? And it was a trick, there's some trick that, and you got pre-approved, and now 3 days before the closing, they're ready to pull your credit again, and the score drops. No, we want a solid foundation
100%.
and keep building on it and keep focused on it, live a healthy credit lifestyle.
100%.
You know?
Listen, again, I listen to people that are always the best in their field, like Kobe Bryant, whether it be, Kobe, Warren Buffett, anybody who is at the top of their field. If you go study those people, they're going to tell you one thing: you got to put in the work. The work hurts. There are no shortcuts to success. There's no magic formula. There's no nothing, right?
Yeah.
Now we on the road to 800. But if I never make 800, I'm good. 740 is good enough for me to be where I need to be. But now I made a decision. I said, let me go get out of New York City, metro area. Let me go to America. Let me do what I got to do, and that's it. Is it a headache? Yeah. Is it an extra flight to New York City and then on to wherever I'm flying? Sure. But the pros heavily outweigh the cons. And again, because I'm not looking over my shoulder every second, my quality of life is better.
Yeah.
So just the stress that's off my body could give me another 5 years.
Right. No, of course, stress with, financial stress is serious. You, like I said, you can't sleep at night.
Sleep.
You're sweating. All you're thinking about when you are at work is about your bills and who's going to call or who's going to show up, right? Because, and if you can, again, I've been there, so I know, but it's saying, let's just stop the madness, try to figure out ways to make more income and to pay off what happened,
What you owe, yeah.
and just continue to grow.
What are the things that people can do just as a starter, just as basic? What can they do to get prepared to even come to you? What are things that someone can do to just get everything in a space where you can actually work with them?
When they're ready, when they want to start.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. And, and we have to look at the credit report. We have to see what's going on. And a lot of times people don't want to look at their credit report because it's scary. It's hard. Yeah. And a lot of times though, we'll look at it and it's not as bad as, it's just not as bad. And if you
mine was bad. Mine was bad as it looked. Yeah.
But if you have a plan, you can start feeling better.
Everything starts with a plan. 100%.
Right. So once we, that's the thing. Okay, let's keep it real. Let's figure out how we can get from point A to point B and keep going. And so it's really beginning when you want to start.
Right. Now,
and not pay late and not ignore the bills.
Right.
But
that's also again, people, lowering your expenses. Because if you lower your expenses and you lower you live below your means, you can have money to pay these things off. That's the first thing, getting your credit right. After getting your credit right, if you live below your means, the next step is investment. Are there any books or any things that people should read or educate themselves about before they come to you?
There's so many great books out there. And but what I would say, number one, is when it comes to credit, you got to look at your credit report. And it's free to do, Scoop. Annualcreditreport.com. It's free.
That's it?
That's it. It's free.
That's it?
That's it. And you can look at your credit report, and a lot of times people don't want to, but at that site, you can look at it every 7 days for free. It doesn't hurt your credit to look at it. So that's where you begin. But of course, there's so many. I'm always in, the aisle for books when it comes to money and finance. And you just have to find, what resonates with you.
Right.
And just keep going. Of course, I have books.
Right. So what are your books?
Yeah.
What are the things that you have that somebody can go and say, I'll read this. Okay, this makes sense. And then they're prepared to come and talk to you.
Yeah, the 90-day credit challenge.
Okay.
And I like having 90 days, right? Because you can really focus in 90 days and you can start changing things. It's just you don't know what you don't know. No one really teaches us about credit, right? And that's what I'm trying to change.
Right.
Let's talk about credit more often. I mean, it is a lot different now than when I started because you'll see the commercials, right, about credit and everything. But let's really, and I appreciate you coming all this way to talk about it. Because that's how we can keep letting people know it's okay.
But listen, it's important. And the reason that I'm here is simply because of a couple of things. If it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. I am never ashamed or afraid to tell my story because life happens to everyone. It's just that sometimes these guys don't let you see it. But everybody takes losses. It's just how you take your losses. Do you take them publicly or you take them privately? Everybody wants their wins publicly, but nobody wants to show their losses publicly. So I'm here to let y'all know, listen, it could happen to anybody. It can happen for any reason. Divorce, you get sick, somebody in your family, something happened. Anything can happen at any time in any situation. So that's why I'm here. And I'm here to let people know how you did it. Because that was so important. Again, like you said, I looked at it and I said, I'm in a 470, 440. What y'all gonna do for me? And a 440 turned to a 740. It can happen.
It can happen. And it's step by step.
It's step
right?
by step.
And it's just putting in the work. And you did that. When we would say you need to pay this, we figured it out, right?
Just get a check, pay it. What is because there's Equifax, right?
Equifax,
Experian.
TransUnion, and Experian.
Right. Who's the worst?
No, I don't have a favorite. Or
Because when I look at one will be this, and then this guy says this.
They have different information. They don't share information. So it's what's going to them. It's not their fault. Maybe a collection account is only on 2 reports and not 3. So you just don't know. So they really all, they're all just reporting the information that's given to them. And so there's no good or bad.
Listen, people, it'll be something stupid. Full transparency. I just received a bill for $38.70 from a lab.
Yeah.
And I forgot about it. It was like, listen, if you don't pay this, we're going to send it to collection. Man, just when you get that, pay that right away.
Pay it. But I will say when it comes to medical, anything that's under $500, they've changed it and it's not on your credit report.
Oh, it's not?
No. Not saying don't pay it. Please pay medical bills.
Right.
But anything under $500 is not on your credit report anymore.
They can't put, who was behind that?
The 3 credit reporting
They
agency.
said
They stopped it. Yeah. So, and then here's the thing. Everyone's like, well, what about the $600 bill? Yes, it can go on your credit report, but as soon as you pay it, it gets
It's all,
deleted.
they delete it.
They delete it because it's medical debt.
Do they ever really delete anything?
They
Like,
delete
honestly.
it. Yes, they do. This is like really exciting because, you know, with medical debt, it's the co-pays, it's the lab work you didn't know. People are sick. They weren't paying attention. Not saying they don't want to pay it. But these were, a couple of years ago, they could be on the report. But this is new information. And so anything under $500 can't go on your credit report when it comes to medical debt.
What is the worst? What is the credit? What is the companies or the certain things that are the worst for your credit? Like, is an auto loan worse than a medical, than a this? What would be the scale of best to worst?
I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I am scared of the debts where it's buy now, pay later, those. Now, they all don't credit report, only some, but that scares me because when they credit report and if you don't pay because you're confused, a kid used the computer, didn't even know that, maybe something was purchased. They didn't understand. It's very hard getting someone to understand anything in those, I feel, and getting that off your credit report if there was a mistake. It's very difficult. I just say I don't like those buy now, pay later. If you want something, save up for it, use your credit in a healthy way. I'm always saying the credit cards, don't be afraid of using credit cards. They're the most beautiful things. You can get fabulous perks, rewards, flights, right? But use it in a healthy way. Use it think of it as a debit card, right? So you're not getting into debt, but I use my credit cards like I know I have to pay my cell bill. One's hooked to that. One's hooked for gas. One's for food. One's for travel. So I know they're being used for things I need to purchase, but in a healthy way.
Okay.
And that's what I want everyone to be doing.
So buy now, pay later is actually dangerous.
I think so.
And why are these well, we know why the companies are doing it because there's got to be something good in it for them, which is the interest.
Well, no, a lot of them don't even charge interest, but people will say, oh, well, I can make 4 payments for that $200 item. So I can do that, but I can't pay $200 right now. But then what happens is sometimes they can only make one of those payments, and then the second they can't. And then, yes, it can be credit reported.
Okay, so now we're going back to what I was talking about earlier, people. Needs versus wants. A lot of life people and credit actually dribbles into real life. Credit equals discipline. Okay? And I know that you're going to say, what does that mean? Credit is equal to discipline. You have to discipline yourself to know what you can afford and what you can't afford and act accordingly. I'll give you a great example. I could buy a BMW 750 if I chose to, right? It's an expensive car. But I need to have the discipline to know, hey, bro, continue to drive your Jeep, your 2012 Jeep Wrangler. Invest your money in the stock market. Get a decent return over a certain amount of years. And maybe a couple of years down the line, instead of doing that and putting it on payments, you walk in the dealership, if that's what you want, and say, there you go.
Right. Or you can purchase if there is a good auto loan with a low rate.
How do I know that? How do I know when the rates are when the rates and the percentage is right? How can I figure that out?
Well, when you have a good score like you do right now, whatever the lowest tier, for the interest rate you would be getting.
Right.
So you just have to look up, what, and car shop and see, when it feels right. So using a bank for a mortgage, using a bank for a car loan, it's fine, and having that interest to pay, it's fine.
Right.
There's good debt, and that's good debt as long as you can afford it and it's within your budget, whatever that may be.
Right.
So only you know your budget.
Right.
And if you have that healthy, great score, get the low rate and work within it.
100%. And I mean, just to clarify a lot of that, I am in a place in my life where I want to use credit to my advantage. And when I say that, using it to buy assets and things that appreciate in value.
Right.
Again, I could buy whatever car I choose. Right now, I choose to stick with my 2012 Jeep Wrangler because I can deploy my money somewhere else that's gonna make it work.
Great.
Also, another thing is people, you can't think about what other people are saying and what other people are doing and what other people's opinion of you is. Look, for all the men, if a woman don't want to be with you when you're in a 2012 Wrangler, why should she be with you when you're in a 2026 BMW 750? Everybody's got to stop trying to focus on what people think about them, because all this again ties into credit. You going overextending yourself to buy something, to prove something to somebody else that don't even mean anything.
Right.
If you're going to use credit, use it for good. You're going to do a mortgage, let's do a mortgage on an income producing property.
Right. And with the best rate. Someone the other day, I was looking at this individual, right? And their score was like a 640. And so their income stayed the same. The house stayed the same. The purchase price, everything was the same. If we could move that score, then everything changed. The down payment. So what happened is we worked together for several months, right? And there was some items that did not belong on this gentleman's credit report. Anyway, his score went to 700. So the only thing that changed was his score, not his income, not the house.
Nothing.
And so everything changed. So instead of putting 20% down, he could put 10%. That's a big difference. And then
that's a huge difference.
And then every single month, his payment was like $600 less.
Right.
That adds up over 30 years. And then he had PMI insurance, and it was going to be $700 a month. Instead, it went to $193.
See,
that's a lot of money.
And people, what you have to understand is when your credit is not right, you're in a chokehold.
Right.
You're in a chokehold. And again, just to circle back, the people with the worst credit don't have the money to do what they need to do. So a lot of times, and people, again, a lot of times you may be in a loan that to an extent, because they know you don't have your credit the way it's supposed to be, and you're paying a higher rate, to an extent, they know you're going to fail.
Right, right.
They actually know you're going to fail. It's just when are you going to give this asset back for the bank to get it and resell it and move on.
Or use it in the way where I had to have some of those loans, right? Higher interest rate. But you know what? Take it for the year, work on making every payment on time, work on the other, and then refinance.
Okay, right. Okay,
you know
so
what
that's
I mean?
another
And
deal.
get yourself out and say, okay, I know I have to pay a lot because I have to show it on my credit report. You know, I got to get that trust back. So there's things that you have to do. And of course, I'm always sharing free information. So, if you're on my Instagram, my podcast.
What's your Instagram?
Credit Jeanne.
What's your podcast?
Credit Over Coffee.
Okay, so Credit Over Coffee. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. This is not over coffee. This is actually over water and books.
Right.
But the thing is, people, more than anything, you heard my story, you heard what she does. Take a minute to evaluate where you are and what you need to do. Is there any paper that you have that they can look at stuff and kind of fill it in and evaluate where they are? And
I have a credit checklist. All they have to do is message me and I would send it to them.
Where do they message you?
Instagram, Credit Jeanne.
Okay, so that's what you need to do. That's the first thing. Evaluate where you are. Then get on the phone. Listen, I don't even remember how I met you. How did I meet you?
Alex Matowski.
Yup.
Great guy.
Yup.
That's what I'm saying. Credit is something that throughout your life, right? And that's why no matter what, you just want the guidance you want. No one teaches us. So you have a question, just reach out.
But people, just to kind of wrap this up and put a bow on it, you have to, this is not something that somebody's going to say, come on and do it. This is not something that somebody's going to baby you into. You have to make the first step and call. Like, you got to be ready to do better. You got to have enough pain in your life or enough suffering or enough saying, listen, I'm tired of paying 23%. Or you know, when I miss my credit card payment and I want to get into a situation where I can pay less or whatever. Again, there's no, when you said this to me, I was walking around my house in a circle for like 3.5 hours. When you told me your credit is your adult report card, I was literally walking around my house in a circle like, what the hell is that? But there's nothing more true than that.
Right.
It's how people judge how trustworthy you are, how people judge how you manage your finances. And how you manage your finances is basically how you manage your life.
Right. I mean, and again, but it doesn't mean if you have bad credit, you're a bad person.
No.
We've all been there.
We all been, listen.
We've all been there.
From the beginning, I told y'all, I went into a divorce. Listen, I'm not going to say that I was, Elon Musk, but I was doing all right. I was balling. I was living the American dream. I had cars, everything, family, everything. But sometimes things fall apart. When you fall apart, it all goes down. But again, with work and time, you can get up off your knees and get back to where you need to be. But you have to make that choice to do that. It's all here. All you got to do is hit her on Instagram, and you can either get the books, get the checklist, get it, whatever you need. I've been there. I know it. It's not like I'm just sitting here talking a bunch of nonsense. I went through this with her step by step. She talked me through it, but it got done.
Right. It did.
Anything else you want to say?
I just want to thank you for coming here.
You have to thank me. I should thank you.
Um,
I should thank you because if I didn't have you in my life, there's a possibility I might be in the same predicament. If I didn't have you to talk to me and say, hey, look, I know you don't want, I know, hey, bro, get this in. Like, come on, man, just make you like. There were people calling me when I was on the road saying, listen, man, you haven't gone and paid X, Y, and Z. If I didn't have that, where would I be now? Again, 440 to 740, that's 300 points, right? That means that everything is a little bit easier for me. And guess what, people? I haven't even started using the effects of this credit change. I'm still on building. I want to get to 800.
Let's do that.
I want to come out and say 800.
Yep.
Now, 800 to me, people, would be the equivalent of rappers wearing all these big chains. That's what it would be for me. Like, the clout on 800 would be amazing. Maybe we should go back. Maybe we should go back. Yeah, maybe we should get to. If I get to 800, you think we get it back?
Oh, I think you could get it back now.
We haven't even tried. That's another story for another time.
Let's talk about that
but
tomorrow.
we'll talk about that later. So people, just to wrap it up, credit in today's world might be the number one thing you got to worry about, because credit equals commerce. Commerce equals how you move, where you live, what you drive, where you go, what you eat, what you're able to get on time basis, and what you're not. Make sure you get your credit right.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.